Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us. We look forward to be back in Iowa this weekend. Tonight, I'm in the Atlanta, Georgia area. We're doing a debate on Fox News with Sean Hannity against Gavin Newsom, governor of California. And, this was something that Sean had asked Newsom because, he has spent so much of his time as governor attacking Florida and attacking me. And obviously, they've lost a lot of population. We've had a lot of people move from California to Florida, unlike any other time in American history. And so I think he's been self-conscious about that. And so he's attacked us. He's demagogued a lot of the stuff we've done. So Hannity said, well, if you're going to do that, why don't you debate him? And he said, oh, I'll do it within 24 hours. Let's do it. So then Hannity asked me, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And at first I was like, well, we know he's running for president. He's just not honest about it. I was like, shouldn't he have to throw his hat in the ring? But then I thought about it. I'm like, I think Republican voters understand Biden is a spent force. He should not be running again. There's a lot of Democrats that want to remove him and put in somebody else. So I see Newsom as being one of these guys waiting in the wings. I think he's dancing around, trying to act like he's not interested in this, but clearly trying to set him up. So the debate is less about Florida versus California because we beat them on all the key metrics: education, economy, in-migration, crime, all these things, homelessness, you name it. But I do think it's where would the Democrats want to go after 2024? If it's Biden that does run and gets reelected, if it's a Harris, if it's a Newsom, that California model is really, I think, what would drive their party nationally. And that would have devastating effects on people in Iowa, as well as throughout the country, if we Californicated the entire United States of America. So it's going to be an important debate. And I'm going to be somebody that's going to be able to stand there, having governed according to strong conservative principles, exercise leadership, and delivered really big results and positive results. Whereas he has gone with ideology and leftist agenda over the well-being of his citizenry. That's why you have people that have left the state. For the first time in history, you've had a net loss of population in California under Newsom's administration. That had never happened before because it's a very beautiful state. They've got a lot of great advantages. And that had been a state that people would aspire to move to. Now it's a state that people are moving from. And I never saw people move from California to Florida. When I was growing up, when I became governor, this started to be something that was more frequent. I've been to Iowa and have met people that have fled California to Iowa. So you have seen this exodus is real. The numbers don't lie. And it's because of mismanagement and poor governance. So this is an important debate for the country. Florida, we have a model that can turn the country around. California's model would accelerate the dysfunction and the decline that we see in our country currently. So I hope everybody will tune into that. I think it'll be very, very useful for a lot of voters to be able to see, particularly in Iowa and New Hampshire and some of these early states. Second thing is we are going to be back in Iowa on Saturday. We're going to complete the full Grassley. That'll be 99 counties. We're very excited about doing that. I think you have to do that to win Iowa. I think that's what voters want to see. I think they want to be able to meet you. I think they want to be able to ask you questions. And just the fact that we did it doesn't mean we're not going to hit a lot more counties again over between now and caucus night, because I think that as we pulled into Thanksgiving, most voters didn't even think the caucuses were underway yet. I think they tend to pay attention as it gets a little closer. But we're really excited about where we are right now. Obviously, the governor's endorsement, we got Bob Vanderplaats. We're seeing with these caucus commitments, doing everything that we need to do. And I think we're in better shape by far than previous caucus winners. And so we're going to continue to take that momentum all the way to caucus night for victory. And I think the thing that's a little bit unique about this caucus is if you go back 2008, 2012, 2016, I mean, you had a lot of candidates, that were running as conservatives. Well, this year, I'm the clear conservative choice. Donald Trump, for whatever reason, has moved left on a lot of issues, famously attacking pro-life legislation. Just yesterday, he was thankful for support from BLM, which was a group, it's a Marxist group that burned down a lot of American cities in 2020. That was one of the worst stretch that this country has had in many, many decades. It was a total disgrace. and what happened with those riots. And so he's embracing that, which I just thought was really, really strange. And of course, when he was president, he didn't do anything to stop the BLM riots. He basically tweeted law and order, but he didn't actually ensure law and order. Minneapolis, some of these cities that burnt to the ground, it is going to take decades for them to be able to recover from that. So he's going there, moving left on certain things. I don't know why he's doing that, but he is doing that. And then, of course, I think somebody like a Nikki Haley, she's not even pretending, to run as a conservative. I mean, she is an old style establishment Republican. I don't think that that's something that is going to play well ultimately in Iowa. So what I think most Iowa caucus goers want is, yes, they want somebody that can beat Biden or Newsom or Harris or whoever. And I have the best electoral record of anybody running for what we did in Florida. But they want a conservative president. They want somebody that's going to be representing their values and the conservative principles that they believe in. And that is me in this race. And I think as we get in, as the weeks go on for the rest of this year, and we turn the bend into 2024, I think conservative voters are going to have an obvious choice, and we're going to be the vessel that's going to be able to turn this country around, because I think they realize you have to be dedicated to some of these enduring principles. If it's just go out there and wing it every day, that doesn't work. You got to have that foundation, and I've shown that I have that. That's what guides me, and that's why we've been so successful in Florida. Okay, looking forward to any questions.
Thank you. We will start with Amanda Rooker, KCCI.
Governor, thanks for making the time. I appreciate it. A lot of Iowans that I speak with tell me they care a lot about electability. Looking beyond Iowa, what is the mathematical path forward for you to the White House?
Well, look, I think that we would beat Biden soundly. If you look at what we did in Florida, we won a victory that nobody has ever been able to do as Republicans. I was winning urban areas like Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County. We won women by 8%. We won independents handily. That's what you need if you want to be able to win the Electoral College. You got to win Georgia, you got to win Arizona, you got to win Wisconsin, maybe even Pennsylvania. And so we've shown an ability to do that in ways that the other candidates have not. Obviously, Trump ran in 2020 against Biden. It didn't work out well. If you look at Nikki Haley, when she ran for governor of South Carolina, she ran in 2 really big red wave years, and she underperformed both of those. In fact, her margins, even though South Carolina is a really solid Republican state and she was running in red wave years, she had much smaller margins than I did in Florida, running in a relatively poor year for Republicans in a swing state. So every time I've been on the ballot, I've overperformed the national environment. And also, some of these polls that people put out, I would remind people, the polls were predicting a red wave in 2022. That did not happen. The polls were predicting that I would win governor, but by about half as much as I actually did. They were saying, a lot of them were saying 5 to 7 points, and we won by almost 20. So we not only have a history of overperforming the national environment, but also overperforming the polls. And that's been true in every election that I've done. So that's what you need to be able to beat the Democrats. You got to have somebody that's shown an ability to attract voters from all walks of life. We have done that, and that's how you get the job done.
Clay Masters, Iowa Public Radio.
Yeah, thanks, Governor, for taking the time this morning. With the former president not putting in as much time as you in the state of Iowa, I'm interested, as you're getting ready to debate Gavin Newsom, wouldn't you rather be debating Donald Trump, since that's the comparison that you're wanting to put it out there so you have a win on caucus night here in Iowa?
Of course I want to debate him. I mean, I've been saying that from the beginning. He's not willing to debate. And I think that the reason is because, I mean, he's a quasi-incumbent. He's got 100% name ID. He's very famous. He's also not clicking on all cylinders as a candidate. They got him on the teleprompter. When he gets off, he makes mistakes. He's made a lot of mistakes in Iowa when he's come on these campaign events where he kind of flies in and flies out. Him on a debate stage for 2 hours I think would be something that would benefit me. But I don't think he would benefit from that. So I think they're saying he doesn't want to debate. And I don't know that it's hurt him up to this point. But as we get into the new year, we're going to have a debate in Iowa. I hope. I've been calling for it. I think we will in Iowa prior to caucus. So in the first 2 weeks of January. And if he doesn't show up to that, I think there's going to be a lot of caucus goers who are going to say, well, wait a minute. How are we going to go with him when he's not even willing to come here and make the case to us? So I do think it's going to hurt him. I've said I'll debate him. I told Hannity I'll debate him on Hannity. I was on with Newsmax. We did a town hall in Iowa a week or two ago, and I said, let's do it. Let's have this debate. So he should debate. I think he's not going to debate. I think part of it is I think he thinks he's entitled to be nominated, which is not the way this works. You've got to earn it. But I also think he doesn't want to have to answer questions about some of the positions that he's taken, about some of the things that he's promising now that he also promised in 2016 and didn't accomplish, like building the wall, like draining the swamp, like reducing the debt, and on down the line. How he handled Anthony Fauci by giving Fauci so much power during COVID, why he didn't go in and protect people from the BLM riots in the summer 2020. These are all important things. And I think people have a right to know answers to those. And I also think he has to explain, how is he going to be able to get this done going forward, winning? How's he going to win the election? How is he going to actually be able to govern as a lame duck president on day one? We've never seen that before. So I've said that nominating Trump is high risk and low reward, because I think he, as a lame duck president, is just going to be limited on what he could actually accomplish. I think he's going to have so many distractions, it's going to be virtually impossible to get big things done. And then I think he's not going to be able to attract the quality personnel that you need to really drain the swamp in DC and to change the direction of how Washington works. So I would be able to do that. I'm low risk because I have a great record, a great electoral record. We'd be able to take on all comers against the Dems, but then I'd go in full head of steam, be able to serve 2 terms, attract really good personnel, and actually get all this stuff done.
Daniel Peralt, KWWL.
Hi, Governor. Thanks so much for taking some time to talk to us. As we sort of get closer to the Iowa caucuses, what gives you confidence? What gives you motivation? How do you believe that you're going to be able to close the gap between you and former President Trump in terms of enthusiasm, in terms of support as we get closer to the caucuses?
Well, I think we've got tremendous enthusiasm. I think we've got a tremendous organization on the ground. I don't think people have ever seen anything like this. That is important in a caucus. And, if you go back in previous caucus years, and you looked at kind of how people viewed the landscape in November, once you got into the caucus, the results are much different. And I think it's because it's hard to put a finger on how much the ground operation, all this stuff works on caucus night. We know we've got a great number of caucus commitments. We've got a great organization, and that is going to be able to really, really help us as we're going forward. I also think just getting some of these key endorsements, getting a lot of the key people in Iowa to rally behind us. We're going to have a lot of wind at our back. And I don't know that there's ever been a candidate in an Iowa caucus who's been able to line up the type of really significant support that we have been able to do. And I think it's a good thing. And I also think you have a candidate in Donald Trump who is lashing out and trying to smear people like Governor Reynolds, trying to smear Bob Vanderplaats. I mean, basically anybody that doesn't kiss the ring, he lashes out at and smears. And I don't think that's how Iowans think that this stuff should go. I mean, people can support who they want, but if we have a good Republican governor or a good conservative leader in the grassroots, you shouldn't smear them just because they're not supporting you. We want to see good governors like Governor Reynolds. We want to see good governors in other states do good things as Republicans, and we shouldn't be lashing out just for personal reasons.
Dave Price, KTIV.
Hey, good morning, Governor. The kind of inside baseball side of this is that from a realistic standpoint, for you to do well, for you to win, you're going to have to convince some of these evangelicals in our state who have supported Trump in the past to slide over to you, right? And I know you did Bob's event and kind of laid out some of your beliefs when it comes to faith and that. Outside of the 6-week abortion, what is your message to evangelicals on why specifically they should leave the guy they believe accomplished some things for the Christian movement? How would you convince them that you are now the better choice?
Well, if you look at my record, we've delivered on really important issues that are important to people of faith, to values voters. So yes, we have delivered pro-life legislation. I've also appointed conservative justices to the Florida Supreme Court. We now have the most conservative Supreme Court in America because of my appointments. And I think that's important because the next president, a two-term president, you're likely going to have to replace Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. They are the two best conservative justices on the court. And Donald Trump appointed 3, and they're all good jurists, but none of the 3 are at the level of Alito or Thomas. And so if Trump were to replicate in those replacements what he did, that would actually move the court to the left. So I've shown an ability to be able to appoint justices who are in the mold of Justice Thomas and Justice Alito, as well as the late Justice Scalia. And I think it's important because a 2-term president, you could potentially leave a 7-2 conservative court. I understand these constitutional issues. I understand the difference in kind of conservative jurisprudence, and I will be able to do very well there. And I'm not going to need somebody just give me a list. I know these people. I know their records, and we'll do a good job just like we did in Florida. The other thing is we've been willing to take on big fights, like against Disney, to be able to protect the innocence of our school children and the parents' rights. We should not have things like transgenderism injected into elementary school. Telling a kid that they're born in the wrong body is wrong. We fought that fight in Florida, against the left and against the corporate media and all that. But Disney came to bear, and we fought back and we won. And Donald Trump took the side of Disney in that fight, and he was cheering on Disney against Florida and against us standing up for our kids. He's also somebody that in the past has been very interested in injecting men into women's competition, whether it's his beauty pageants or some of those other things. So I think that he's been all over the map on that, but siding with Disney, I think, is a big, big red flag. And then I think it's also, who really, we have a crisis right now in America of a lack of family. Really, the family is going to be key to turning the country around. My wife and I think, exemplify what it means to be parents. We take our obligations very seriously. Family is of the utmost importance to us. And I think we would serve as a really positive symbol for America to have a nice young family in the White House who really believes in the importance of faith, family, and freedom. So I'm a better representative of the conservative values that those voters hold, particularly as somebody who can do this for 2 terms, and particularly for somebody that has a record in electoral politics that is superior to any of the other candidates running.
KWQC, do you have a reporter present? I see your capture account. KWQC. Okay, we'll move to Matt Baker, WHO.
Thank you. No questions.
Skylar Talal, KGAN.
Thank you, Governor, for holding this. I was just curious if there's any kind of timeline for you regarding when you would announce a potential running mate, and if there's any thoughts on maybe doing that a bit earlier than we normally see.
I don't have thoughts on that. I mean, I think it's just premature. Yeah, you got to get through these primaries. I don't know that doing a running mate prior to that necessarily makes sense. So that's not something that I've thought about doing. I mean, who knows? Maybe someone will provide me a rationale why that would make sense. But what I have told people is the criteria that I'm going to use are really 2 things above all else. One, the person's got to be able to be president and got to be able to do the job. And when you pick somebody, it shouldn't even be a question that if something were to happen to the president, that this is somebody that could fleet up and take things under their wing and have no problem. And that's not always been the case in selections over the years that people have made on both parties. So you got to do that. And then the second thing is somebody that broadly shares our vision and our values. You don't want a situation where you work hard, the people put faith in you, they elect you, something were to happen, and then the person that succeeds you goes in a radically different direction. So it's got to be somebody that is that believes in what we believe in, and that would want to carry on that legacy if it ever came to that.
We want to thank everybody for joining us, and I want to remind those in the Des Moines market that there will be a watch party tonight at Jethro's for the Newsom DeSantis debate. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.